Besides immigration, President Trump is also getting to work on jobs and the economy. In a meeting with auto industry executives yesterday, Mr. Trump vowed to reduce taxes and regulations to encourage businesses to build more plants in the U.S. and hire more American workers.
For more, we turn to Alan Murray, the editor-in-chief of Fortune and Time Inc.'s chief content officer. Good to see you.
Good to be here, Vlad. Thanks.
All right, so the president has said he wants to cut regulation by 75%. Is that even feasible?
I don't know what that means, but look, what's going on here, it's really interesting. I mean, it is a very unique and seemingly effective use of the bully pulpit to get companies to put more jobs here in the United States. It's a national industrial policy, which we've never had in the U.S. before. Other countries have had it. We haven't. And this is being driven by the president himself. He is literally bullying companies. You know, he says, I'll slap tariffs on you if you don't do it. But if you do it, I'll give you big reductions in regulation and in taxes.
So you've talked to a lot of these CEOs.
Yeah.
How are they preparing for this presidency? I'm sure they're upping their Twitter skills because he always seems to comment on Twitter. But how are they preparing?
I'm told Mark Fields of Ford actually read The Art of the Deal to get ready for it. Look, this is a group of people who weren't particularly favorable for Trump before the election. We did a survey of Fortune 500 CEOs. Only about 40% supported Trump, more supported Clinton. That's the first time in my lifetime when a Republican candidate hasn't had big business behind him. And it was because of trade policies, immigration policies. But what's happened since the election is they realize with a Republican Congress, he has the best opportunity in over a decade to actually reduce corporate taxes, do some corporate tax reform, to roll back some of these regulations that have built up over the last 8 years. So I think there's now sort of a building optimism about what may happen for corporations on that front. So the whole thing's turned upside down.
You certainly see it in the stock market,
For
right?
sure. It's very jittery and jumpy, even though as it nears 20,000. Alan, the president, when he was candidate Trump on the campaign trail, sort of poo-pooed the labor numbers, the unemployment rates. He said that the unemployment rate was actually much higher than what the Bureau of Labor Statistics has, which last I checked in December, it was 4.7%, below 5%. Just this week, Sean Spicer, the press secretary, was asked what is the unemployment rate, and he didn't really give an answer. He said, well, how do you define the unemployment rate? I wonder, what is that going to mean going forward? How are they going to be able to tackle jobs, which is what the president has said he wants to do, if they're not even willing to believe these career statisticians who work at the Bureau of Labor?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, we're getting a lot of news these days about our new president's casual relationship with truth and the facts. But let's put that aside. On the labor market stuff, there is a point. I mean, there are a lot of older workers who just become discouraged. They stop looking for jobs and they drop out of the workforce. So the available labor force is probably bigger than the unemployment numbers suggest. It may not be the 28 or 29% that he's talking about, but it's probably bigger than the 4.7 that we have now.
You know, the Congressional Budget Office, which is nonpartisan, they made a prediction. They expect that the debt will grow by $10 trillion over the next decade. Now, the president wants to cut taxes, increase spending. What's the long-term implication of increasing debt?
So a couple of things. One is, one of the biggest things he can do for corporations is to cut the tax rate on the earnings that they have overseas, right? American companies have $2 trillion locked overseas that they won't bring home because it faces a 35% tax rate if they do. So the president and Congress can say, okay, we'll let you bring that money home at a 15% tax rate if you'll invest in the U.S. That's a huge savings for business, but it doesn't really cost the government any money because they weren't going to bring that money home anyway. Actually, they get the 15% as opposed to zero before. Doesn't hurt the deficit. So there are things like that that can be done that don't hurt the deficit. And a lot of the talk about corporate taxes has been kind of tax reform, revenue neutral tax reform. Bring down the top tax rate but eliminate loopholes. Again, if they do that, it doesn't have to hurt the deficit. So it's worth keeping an eye on.
Alan, real quick, we got 30 seconds, but were you surprised that not only did the president meet with CEOs, he also met with labor leaders, which I know for a lot of people was interesting because you would think that management and labor might be at odd ends, but the president willing to meet with both sides.
Yeah, well, that's the interesting thing about the Trump constituency, right? He is excited. A lot of people, I mean, at the beginning of my career, we called these people Reagan Democrats, people who you might think are normally Democratic supporters, but who are attracted by what he's doing, which is bullying big corporations into creating jobs in the U.S.
All right. Alan Murray, we thank you.
Good to be with you.